Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, everybody. Oh, I've missed you guys. I wanted to put up a video, but I was like, no. Hold off. You need a day. Okay, so there we go. Thank you to this Twitter user above. I'm sure you're reading this for the following picture. You guys, we have so much to cover. Let's get in there and get it done, shall we? Let's go. I'd like to thank this Twitter user actually for these photos. This is apparently Scone Palace next to Moot Hill, where Charles will be crowned. Apparently they were crowned there until 1651. Very nice. All right, next on, we're moving on to Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. On July 1st, she went to the Ace Winches Scottish Traditional Boat Festival in Portsoy, I think is how you pronounce it. And her husband, Sir Tim Lawrence, was there with her, as usual, her rock, her, mainstay. Love it. She always looks so happy when she's performing duties, I think she finds great joy in what she does, which you should. Now, while she was there, they handed her a glass of some sort of beer. It was a single malt. Now, she sniffed at it, but she did not drink it. And they gave her a bottle of it, and she immediately turned around and handed that off to her husband. So I guess we know who likes the alcohol in the family. Looks like she gave a speech. Everybody had a great day. Looks like to me, anyway. All right, moving on. Prince Michael of Kent was apparently on day one of Wimbledon watching, the tennis. Good for him. Glad he's getting out and about. All right, this is royal, but yet not. Okay, so the Duke of Gloucester was at the Bristol Cathedral in front of this fountain. This fountain apparently was running with oil. Yes, you heard me correctly, oil. I thought holy oil, but apparently this is supposed to get people to think how people are totally reliant on oil and how we need to move away from it with other renewable energy. So the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester was there. Look at those wood carvings. How elaborate. And one of the things they were looking at was an organ, which is supposed to be rebuilt and refurbished next year. And while they were there, also some students from a local primary school came and sung for them in one of the chapels. Very nice. Moving on. Prince William went to RVT. He met volunteers from places called Give Us a Shout Out and the Mix UK, and they discussed about mental health for the LGBT community, and he appeared in a new video filmed by the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. That's the RVT. This was all for Pride Month. Very nice. You go, William. Oh, sticking with William, here we go. William took Prince George to a cricket game. I'm not sure what cricket is, I got to be honest, but okay, I think it's something like tennis. I could be wrong. But it was a game in London on Saturday, July 1st. It was the second Ashes test. It was day 4 of the second Ashes test at Lord's. And they were cheering on England, who was playing Australia. So, of course, Rishi Sunak is there, and he's trying to talk to George, but it's pretty obvious. George just wants his pizza. You go, George. He turned around, acknowledged him, and then turned back around. Now, of course, Prince William chatted away with him. What choice did he have? And the two of them looked like they were just having a blast, which I love. I love that he takes George out for things like that. And I try not to mac on him. He is much younger than me. But then I see pictures like this, and it's like, oh, holy God. You guys, like, really? Pretty obvious that George is a big fan. I love the fact that he and his father color coordinated. Now, they were sitting next in two different areas. First they were sitting to the left, then the right. Here George was given a replica of the Ashes urn, big fan. Now, at one point, they were sitting next to, what was his name? Actor Stephen Fry. Then, when they were sitting on the right side, then at some point they were sitting on the left side. So I think, they moved around the area. I don't think they had set seats per se, but the two of them were so alike in their mannerisms and the things they were doing. It was just crazy. But I love that William is not afraid to take George out into public, unlike other people whose children never leave the house. George is just out at cricket like anybody else, enjoying himself like anybody else. And that's how it should be. That's how you should be raised, to just, be yourself and not worry about other people. Now, of course, this came up and I had to address it because William's shirt being unbuckled, showing this huge Adam's apple, the strong jawline, they're saying it sent hearts racing. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. All right, let's move on now to King Charles. First off, members of the King's Color Squadron and RAF musical services were honored by King Charles at a private investiture at Buckingham Palace. This was for bringing the Queen's body back and also for the funeral that was played, the music played at the funeral. All right, next up, the articles that were coming out are saying that Harry is going to miss out when Charles has his coronation in Scotland, and that William and Catherine are going to have a starring role. Well, that'll be interesting to see what happens when that does happen. In the meantime, King Charles put on his kilt and headed to Scotland. He's going to have a great week this week. All right, I'm going to try to put these in the correct order, but don't shoot me if they're not. So King Charles showed up and they did the traditional ceremony of the keys, where Charles was welcomed into the city of Edinburgh, which is, quote, his ancient and hereditary kingdom of Scotland, by the Lord Provost. Charles pulled up in his car and he was offered the keys to the city of Edinburgh. Now, this is just a symbolic thing that they do. They don't actually give him keys, obviously. And this always takes place at Holyrood House. Now, maybe it's just me, but when I saw these pictures, I expected to see Johnny next to King Charles, because remember when the Queen used to do this? He was next to her with the sword up, so I don't know. I just was expecting to see Johnny. Anyway, he received the new Elizabethan sword, which will be used in place of the current sword. Remember, I showed you the whole sword the other day. It's brand new, named after his mother. It is ornate and it is freaking gorgeous. And just think, 200 years from now, somebody else is going to be using that Elizabethan sword. Isn't that just amazing? Such a part of history. And yes, in the back corner, there's Johnny. Now, the next thing, I think it's the next thing he did, don't quote me, like I said, King Charles went to the Royal Yacht Britannia. Okay, it was 25 years ago it arrived in Edinburgh, and he went with Bob Downey, who's the chief executive of the Royal Yacht, and he went on a tour of it. And once again, there's Johnny. Looks like he went around, he met everybody, had a little sniffer of whatever it was they were drinking. Now, he got to see all kinds of things, including an outfit that his father wore on the ship, which I think is really cool. The yacht was decommissioned in 1997 in a formal ceremony that the royal family attended. All right, let's move on now. All right, next up, the king was in Falkirk, where he met up with members of the Scottish community, representatives from the Prince's Trust, etc., etc. He went to a place called Kinneil House, and he planted a tree because the estate is apparently going to become a public park. He also met a little girl named Lexi, who is considered to be the Bo'ness Fair Queen, also at this Kinneil House. Could you imagine meeting the actual king while you're dressed up like that? That must have been such a thrill for this kid. Good for her. All right, do you guys remember, this is nothing royal, this is just off topic. Do you guys remember Jeremy Clarkson? He wrote that article based on the Game of Thrones, where he said that Meghan should have to walk through the town, while people threw excrement at her. And Meghan was horrified and demanded an apology and blah, blah, blah. Well, what's come out is they're saying that the article was sexist, but, quote, the watchdog rejects complaints it was discriminatory on the grounds of race, inaccurate, or sought to harass the Duchess. So not racist and didn't seek to harass. I agree with Unlikely Bot. She should have accepted one of those 2 apologies she got. Now, on one of my previous videos about Jeremy Clarkson, one of my subscribers put the above comment. No surprise that Meghan refused to accept the apology, because she spent years punishing her own father for a solitary misstep, despite the fact that she herself has based her entire career on fake photo ops. And also, another subscriber from 6 months ago put down that Mr. Clarkson wrote what he did because it was Meghan who said in her Netflix documentary that she felt she was going back to medieval times when she first went to the dinner party with the Queen. And he wrote, what would happen to her if we were still in medieval times? Exactly, spot on. All right, this is totally against anything royal, but it was so important. Benny Johnson put this up. You know, the Obamas, when affirmative action in the United States got knocked down, Michelle Obama put out a tweet and she was so upset. Well, apparently she put out this tweet while she's on a private island in Greece with Tom Hanks having dinner. Wow. Now, then this next person on Twitter put this up. Now, if this actually took place during 2011, then I find it absolutely horrible. It's obvious she is saying what she's being accused of saying, but wow. All right, moving on. This article came out. I had to touch it. We all remember what happened to Lady Hussey and that woman Marlene. We know it was a complete setup. We've got it. So apparently, diversity and inclusivity training programs were offered. They were voluntary. You didn't have to do it. They were offered online and in person, provided by outside companies, and they an insider, okay, which means what? An insider said that he's not aware of any members of the royal family who took part in the training. One course was called unconscious bias and another diversity in the workplace. Yeah, no wonder they didn't touch it. The person who should be taking it is Marlene. Marlene, the same woman who got her apology, was pictured sitting next to Miss Hussey and then turned around and came back and demanded yet another apology, which she did not get. All right, moving on to Harry. It came out that, you know, when Harry got married, one of his friends was an usher. His name was Jack Mann. There was some talk that he was really the best man, but I think we know better than that. Anyway, Jack got married. Harry wasn't there. And also, Thomas Van Strabenzee, who's godfather to Princess Charlotte, was there with his wife Lucy, who is the assistant head at Charlotte and Prince George's former school. And everybody's like, well, you know, he wasn't there. He missed it. You guys, did you ever consider that maybe he wasn't invited? I mean, this is what happened with both of their friend groups. They literally were split down the middle. This all happened right after Harry married Meghan. She got rid of his friends. All right, let's move on to some other interesting information about Harry. All right, here we go. Harry, it came out in court documents, you know, the Mirror, Boston, the Britain's Mirror Group newspaper, you know, the lawsuit. Well, it came to an end the other day, and the documents that were released show that Harry is asking for $560,000 or 440,000 pounds in compensation. Now, interesting, we all know he didn't prove his case. None of the 33 articles, it was proven, came from unlawful information gathering. Harry presented no evidence that his phone was hacked, and some of the information actually came from Harry or with the consent of senior Buckingham Palace aides. So the publisher is saying, listen, if you're going to give Harry anything, even if he wins on all 33 articles, which there's no way that's going to happen, he shouldn't get more than 500 pounds. There you go. I don't think he's going to win. I just don't think he's going to win. He didn't prove his case. If he wins at this point, then the courts are a little, All right, moving on. All right, here we go, you guys. The Sovereign Grant report came out. And remember, in Harry's book, The Spare, he whined about not having a home as nice as William's. And, you know, his place was so fabulous. But what happened was he wrote in The Spare that he was embarrassed to welcome Meghan to his home, which was Nottingham Cottage, because it was so small. And then they went to go visit William and Catherine in their 20-room palace apartment, which had been renovated. And he said, yeah, Meghan's eyes just got wide and she just kept saying, wow. And, it was just nothing compared to the way I was living. They were living in a museum with priceless art. Well, I was squished into, Nottingham College on a polyester modular set. Well, what came out was that the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, who had lived in the apartment next door for 40 years, left so that the apartment could belong to the Sussexes. So they could have had just as nice a home, but they decided to leave London and go to Frogmore Cottage. So much for we weren't, given a home on the same scale as Catherine and William. They were offered it. They said no. So in the end, Harry's book, The Spare, has him as a man that was hard done by, and he didn't get a home as grand as his brother, only to find out he was offered one and he turned it down. Another lie debunked. Moving on. All right, here we go. So we know that Harry and Meghan have been blaming everything and everybody for why their careers are flopping. It's COVID. It's the royal family. We've lost Spotify. Netflix is not renewing our contract. And they seriously believe they've just been repeatedly unlucky. Yep. The death of the Queen, the death of Prince Philip, that it's got nothing to do with them, but it has everything to do with the pandemic and, blah, 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 taking no responsibility for the fact that people just don't like them. Crazy. And now, with so much backlash from the book, now they're coming out that they're saying it was the ghostwriter's fault, that he added stuff to make it livelier. It's really not Harry's fault. All right, now, here we go. The YouTube star that said she's going to sue Meghan Markle for defamation? Well, come to find out, she just found out that her boyfriend is a big fan of Meghan. She said, had I known that, he wouldn't have made it past the second date. All right, moving on. They're saying that all of the Hollywood biggies who were so keen to align themselves with Harry and Meghan, they've all gone AWOL. Nobody wants to be seen with them. Not Ellen DeGeneres, not the Clooneys. You don't even really see Serena Williams hanging out with them either. Taylor Swift gave them the boot. She didn't want anything to do with them. And the United Talent Agency, who's currently representing Meghan, is trying to purchase a Emmy nomination in the hopes of getting them in there, with the in crowd. You never see them with Gayle King. You never see them with Oprah. You never, ever hear about Beyonce anymore hanging out with them. Nothing. They've been abandoned because they haven't learned to shut up. Now, more information that's come out is that it was Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who insisted on the line, recollections may vary, after the Oprah interview and the family was accused of being racist. The thing for me is when they said that it was Catherine that made Meghan cry. The fact that Catherine wanted that line in there tells you right there that that's not the way it went down. It was Meghan that made Catherine cry. Okay? The whole family, it's just shocking. The whole never complain, never explain motto. But the interview was too big to just ignore. And so they put out that official statement. Okay? It's pretty obvious. We've already taken apart that interview. It was debunked. But then it came out that when Queen Elizabeth saw the interview, which she insisted on seeing for herself, she actually cried. The interview made her cry. Can you imagine? Catherine made the point, quote, it was Kate who clearly made the point. History will judge the statement, and unless this phrase or a phrase like it is included, everything they have been said will be taken as true. You know what? I don't think anybody in the royal family wants them back. Knowing now what he did to his grandmother, I mean, could you imagine just the sheer anger that William and Catherine felt towards this interview? And here Harry came out in the Me You Can't See and said that we did it as lovingly and as gentle as possible, hoping for a reconciliation. No way. Catherine's playing the long game. Make no mistake, Catherine's a cougar. Go, go, like a tiger. All right. In the meantime, Megan's Netflix project, about the Great Expectations, the remake, people are saying that it's not going to be any good. Harry, in the meantime, has jetted off to Africa like Megan's little puppet. We all know how that is, because he's going to make a new Netflix docuseries on his own. But it's going to suck because Megan has no talent. Harry has no talent. Harry just thought all he had to do was say, I'm Prince Harry, and the doors were going to open. It didn't work out that way. Now, of course, her PR is putting out articles like this. She's getting big brand offers, and things are just going so well for her. But the truth is, and I agree with the article that just went by, I think Harry is sick of this. Harry is very unhappy. Harry doesn't want to be a celebrity. Harry still wants to go out and do good in the world, but he wanted to do good outside the royal family, but that's not the way that Meghan set it up, you know what I mean? So Harry is on his way to Africa by himself. He's probably going to go to that Centabale place. We've already seen it. We already know what's going on there. We already know about the little girl that he promised to take care of and he didn't. This ought to be interesting. All right, in the meantime, moving on with this mess, Harry and Meghan did a pap walk in Santa Barbara. Because once again, the paparazzi just happened to be there, just happened to spot them. Now, it said they were holding hands. As you can clearly see, no, they weren't. They walked side by side to the car. They did not hold hands. Meghan is a wrinkled, crinkled mess. The woman needs an iron. Somebody needs to talk to her about an iron. And in the meantime, Harry is still wearing the same threadbare, crappy shirts that he's been wearing for the last 5 years, while she's wearing the same, old new, brand new, whatever, and smiling. Harry looks absolutely miserable here. Sorry, that's my opinion. So he walks to the car, he opens the door, he shoves her in, he walks around the car, he goes to get in the other side, he looks absolutely miserable. I'm sorry. And look who took the pictures. That guy that did the YouTube channel with Meghan's father. And then Meghan's father dropped in because he felt like he had ulterior motives. Something weird going on here. And I do think what Meghan's mole said here is true. I think Carl took the photos, sold them to Backgrid, and gave them a percentage. Resting Doll Face said the same thing. All right, a blind item came out that basically said that Harry wants somebody's wife to be part of whatever she's selling. Remember, she's going to be doing these subscription services. Remember. And apparently they're wanting somebody to be a part of it. If they're smart, they'll run. All right, moving on. Bot Sentinel. I have to touch on this, you guys. Christopher Boozy. We all know about Christopher Boozy. This is the man who doxed me, who doxed my son, who put out all my personal information. Well, apparently, Elon Musk found out that, you have to pay for the API access. I think it's like $125,000 a month. And of course, Christopher Boozy can't afford that. So finally, Elon Musk cut him off. He was illegally scraping data, is what these tweets are saying. So next thing you know, I was like, what's happening? Like, how is this happening? Then it came out that Christopher Boozy admitted he removed the delete button from Spoutable. So if you wanted to remove your information, then you can't. He's got your stuff. You can't remove your information. Then it came out that Bot Sentinel and Spoutable both had their Twitter accounts removed, suspended, which makes me think that it might come back. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, just in case any of you don't know about Christopher Boozy, there's 2 links in the description box. One is the first video I did on him, and number 2 was his response to the video I did on him. All right, moving on. All right, you guys, in the end, as you can see, I got another message from another subscriber. Again, unsubscribed. This had to have been the 4th or 5th time. This is why I keep telling you to go ahead and double check that button, okay? And make sure you're still subscribed. All right? In the meantime, leave those comments below. Make them good. Don't forget to go into the description box. You'll find the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, my physical address. For those of you who've donated to my thanks button or through the coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.